More love for Robert Williams because he deserves a lot of it. Plus, how the Celtics are defending Curry. Is something wrong or is it going exactly right? And someone's calling Al Horford dirty. What the hell is that? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making this show part of your daily routine and your first listen every day, 7 days a week through the NBA Finals. No rest for Celtics fans, no rest for me, no rest for anybody. We're all providing tons and tons of Celtics content. You want it, we're giving it to you. I'm giving it to you every single day of the week. Locked On Celtics, free, available everywhere podcasts exist on your favorite app. Show is also on YouTube. That's why I'm staring into this camera right now, because the show is on YouTube and you can watch it there. We've crossed past 6,800 subscribers. Normally, I'm trying to get 500 per round, but this time I was asking for 1,000, so I'm trying to get to 7,500. This is the culmination of the 75th anniversary season, 7,500 subscriptions by the end of it. I'm John Karalis, by the way. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, and I was one of the media voters for the Celtics 75th anniversary team. Today, we're going to give Robert Williams a whole lot more love because, man, did he have a great game. And the way the Celtics are defending Steph Curry, we're going to talk about that in the second segment because there's a little bit of a debate, or at least I'm going to start one, about how the Celtics are defending Steph Curry. And I was asked the most ridiculous question in the world. Actually, it's not the question itself. It's the notion that's being discussed out there that Al Horford did something dirty on the play with Steph Curry. We're doing that again with Al Horford. That's coming up later on in the third segment. And all of these topics will be discussed with my friend, Tom Westerholm, Tom_NBA. On Twitter. Tom, how you feeling, my man?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm, for the YouTube viewers, I'm all diced up here. You can't tell me anything because I got a haircut. So I'm feeling good.
Nothing quite
Shout out
like
to my boy Jay at Lamboy's Barbershop in West Boylston. There's a little free plug.
Oh, how about that? That? I could use a free barbershop plug, obviously. Hey, look, I could probably use somebody to I got to make a decision on this. I got to make a decision on the beard. It's grown into an entity unlike anything I've ever expected. Was not anticipating growing it out this far. I've never grown it out this far. I kind of like it, but it's also too hot. So, Tom, two problems I'm having with the beard. First, it's getting hot, and it's just not conducive to, letting the coolness through. Secondly, people are starting to call me Ted Cruz, and I don't like that.
Oh, that's rough.
That's tough. Yeah,
that's a tough hit.
That's a real tough one. It's making me not only want to shave it, just rip the beard clean off my face. So
that's a tough hit.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna let you process that for a second. That's brutal. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I'm sorry that whenever my son hurts himself, you don't want to make too big of a deal out of it, but you want to acknowledge that he's in pain. So you're like, yeah. I'm sorry that happened.
But also how you hurt yourself is hilarious. Yeah. It's an appropriate reaction. I'm deeply cut to my core. So this thing's got to go. It's either that or I got to do a just for men thing. I just got to change the look, or I got to do something. Braid it? Can I braid it? Can I do something?
Yes.
Tom immediately jumps on the worst possible option. Oh my God, braid it? Yes, please, John. Do that. And then do it in time for the Celtics to win a championship so we can get you on NBA TV with a braided beard. Like, I could put like the beads in it too to really hammer home the worst possible look I could come up with. And you can hear like the beads like crackling against each other in the mic. All right, people, riveting beard talk. Let's get past that. Let's get to Robert Williams, who was just absolutely amazing, and I think the healthiest he's looked in a while. And I think part of it might just be that he's a tiny bit healthier. It feels better. He said after the team's practice Thursday at the Garden that the day after, it's the best it's felt in a while after a game. So that's really big news because, Tom, be honest with you, it was almost like a big setup. Here comes Rob after that game 2 where he looked not great and looked like hurt. And I was getting questions from people about like, okay, how did the Celtics deal without Rob?
Yep.
So now it's holy crap. He was awesome. And now there's only one day in between games. Please, 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 can he be okay and play? So I think it looks like he's gonna be in the same boat, probable, and maybe we'll play. But when you look at the way he played, and if he does that again, I just don't see the Celtics losing.
It is quite. I mean that's the turnovers and Rob being healthy, right? Like those are the two big reasons that the Celtics won that game. Like, I mean, obviously there's all the other factors too, right? Like Tatum was great down the stretch and Jaylen was great in the first quarter and all that stuff. But like those felt like the two swing factors because, Rob comes back in at the end of that third quarter run by the Warriors, toward the end of it, he immediately makes a difference. He immediately makes every shot around the rim more difficult. He even made it more difficult for Steph in the pick and roll. Like he, had forced, a couple turnovers. He is a little bit better at jumping out to Steph on those pick and rolls, like up to Horford. For all the myriad good things he does on a basketball court, he just doesn't he doesn't have the length and the athleticism that Rob has. So just like there's so many little factors of Rob's game that are so impactful. Grabbing offensive rebounds right over Draymond's head. Like, Draymond had him boxed out twice and both and 2 times Rob just kind of was like, nah, I'm going to take this now. So,
too small.
Yeah. Grant Williams hitting Draymond with the too small on the bench. Like, Rob's like, I think the impact of a healthy Rob versus a limited Rob is so significant and really hammers home just how crucial Rob was to the Celtics turnaround and just how good they were this season. I mean, he is a huge part of this team, which is pretty cool given kind of where he was the previous 2 seasons before this, where it was all potential. This year, it's all potential realized, which is cool.
Yeah. And, it makes you feel good about that extension. And I think it also makes you feel good about the, he's playing through the pain. And I think, and I can't say for sure, but it feels like over the course of this season, when Rob has been in or out, Ime has made it a point to kind of highlight that it's mental as much as physical, or more mental than physical. And I think within that is tinged the, come on, Rob, you got to play through some stuff.
It does feel that way.
I feel like now you got to be careful with Rob because he relies on his athleticism. And you have to be cognizant of how hard he is on his knees. Just by jumping in weird ways and how high he gets, he lands awkwardly sometimes, and that puts pressure on the knees. But I definitely feel like Ime has spent parts of the season saying, like, you gotta take a step forward, Rob, mentally. And it's even Rob would say it like during the Milwaukee series, like, how many times are you going to let these expletives run you over? Like that media day thing that he said, like, that's like, I think Ime has been really good for Rob to just be like, come on, you gotta toughen it up. You gotta get some calluses on those hands. You gotta get out there and really kind of learn how, when things hurt, know the difference. Are you in pain or are you hurt? This is the thing my coach always used to tell me. Does it hurt or are you injured? Like, you got to know the difference. You got to play through some of the things that hurt.
And I think it was you last night actually that had like a really good question to Rob about that, where you said like, what are you learning about yourself as this is happening? And Rob, said like, I'm like, obviously I had a discussion with myself, just trying to be accountable for my team, which I thought was kind of an interesting phrasing as an answer to that question. To your point about Ime kind of pushing him, and I think that's a really interesting thing that like Ime has been able to do this season. Is it almost feels kind of taboo to tell a guy like, hey, you need to play through this, right? Like, because there is such an emphasis and such a justified emphasis on keeping guys healthy and like, thinking about the long-term effects of things and thinking about, I mean, look, it's great, right? Because it's also like thinking about these guys as humans, right? Where it's like,
absolutely,
like guys play through things. I mean, like, you think about like Kevin McHale, right? Who played through that foot and now he's like, hobbling everywhere still, however many years later. And Bill Walton, like similar things, right? Where there are these guys who played through a lot of pain and really are paying the price. So you do have to think about those things. But I think that's one of the lines that Ime has walked so impressively this season is that line between clearly caring about these guys as people and caring about them as somebody who is, in charge of rotations and in charge of who plays when and all that stuff. And in charge of how many minutes a lot of these guys are playing, and kind of taking that responsibility, but also being like, hey, I think you can do a little bit more. Try to do a little bit more and see if you can do it. Like that has been like really good coaching, like really impressive stuff. And probably, I mean, if we're being completely honest, the area where Brad Stevens just couldn't quite thread that needle. I mean, Brad was so good at so many things, but it feels like that might be the biggest area where Ime has kind of connected where Brad just didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's take a second here. We'll build on that point and talk about Rob's play on the floor in just a second. But let's first take a second to look at betonline.net, which has the Boston Celtics as 4-point favorites in game 4 on Friday night. 4-point favorites, so a little bit more. They were 3.5-point favorites going into game 3, so a little bit more betting momentum over at BetOnline, which is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information, finding all the latest developments and news and odds. That includes the NBA Finals, includes the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. I'll get that out. Major League Baseball, fights, MMA, UFC, boxing, all there at BetOnline. It's your continued source for sports wagering information, including live betting. You can bet during the games, esports, and more. So head on over to the website today. You can use your mobile device. You can learn about all the trends in action over at BetOnline, where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. The NBA draft is coming up. You may be interested in what the rest of the league is doing. The Celtics don't have a first-round pick, but hey, who knows? Maybe the Celtics do something surprising on draft night. Either way, check out the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, which starts June 16th with over 50 insiders. Nothing equals the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. Locked On NBA, Big Board, draft experts, plus Odyssey insiders all involved. First pick is June 16th. Search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. Follow now so you don't miss a pick. I know you're making Locked On Celtics your first listen. Make the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft your second listen. Let's bring Tom Westerholm in and continue the point there on the coaching from Ime Udoka. And yeah, for Brad Stevens, I think, look, we don't know a lot of what Brad was like behind closed doors. Brad's MO was always very carefully crafted when he was talking to us. And he's very by the book. He's very motivational speaker. He's very like that. But privately, I think I think he's a little bit more of a ball buster. Like he's just a normal dude. Like he is, I'm not speaking on a term when I say I've had private conversations with Brad, and he's just a normal dude. Drop a casual curse word, and like you don't become an NBA head coach without being like a normal person, So, but Ime, I will say, like I didn't realize this at the beginning when this change happened, but Ime relating to the players in this deep a way and realize how important it was to get them to that next step. And just getting that level of direct, like, okay, we're going past like the Brad Stevens coaching accountability, which Rob said, hey, he held people accountable too. Like, don't get it twisted. But also, Ime's like in your face. And the best part was Steve Bulpett tweeted this out. He comes into a timeout during game 3, I think after a Marcus Smart turnover, and sits down and says, will you guys stop playing like assholes? Like, that is, I wish they would leave that on the mic'd up segment.
Oh yeah.
That's a great kind of like, hey, let's go. Let's pick it up here. I think, and even Jayson at practice, he was asked, so what is it like playing basically like for a guy who not too high, not too low, like Ime? He's like, not too high. He cusses us out all the time. Like, it's warranted in the games, but like, he's basically like, Ime gets pretty high. High.
That was really funny. I mean, it was funny too, because like the question, it felt like a question about playing for Brad Stevens, right? Like that not too high, not too low thing. But I think the other really good thing about that will you guys stop playing like assholes quote is like it really hammers again the line that coaches have to walk between like like between getting your guys to focus and also preventing them from panicking, because it says, hey guys, the reason that we're down isn't because the Warriors are blowing us out. It's because you guys are being assholes. Stop it. It's just like,
yeah,
it's again, it's coaching.
There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that when you're sitting on the bench to be like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. It's more, sometimes you just need something like that to snap you back into reality. And it's not, okay, let's focus on this and let's focus on that. And the typical mic'd up stuff, which is like the last 5% of what these guys say in the huddle.
Yeah.
But that first bunch of like expletives thrown at you and you're like, okay, yeah. And you're right. It settles them down because it's very direct. It's almost funny, but like, it's not, it's just what you need. It's the right thing. So you get that to Rob, and now Rob is out there defending extraordinarily well. And let's get into some of this Steph Curry defense, because Rob has been a big reason why the Celtics employ, I think, this drop coverage on Curry. Now, my contention and where I've come on the Steph Curry defense, like, let's backtrack. You wrote a piece for Boston.com about the drop defense and Steph Curry and his impact on the game. And look, the Celtics have had to try to figure out how to defend Curry. And I think one of the kind of emerging themes in all of this is the Celtics continue to try this drop coverage and Curry continues to go off. What are the Celtics going to do about that? I think that's one of like the topics that's come out of that game, especially since Curry's third quarter explosion gave them a brief lead. That I think is something that's concerning to people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it is the fact that I think Horford really seems to struggle with it, right? Like Horford just doesn't kind of have the same like quick twitch, like get out and contest the shot. I mean, when he does get out and contest the shot, there was one play where he got out and it didn't matter. Curry hit the three anyway. And there was another shot where he had obviously the 3-pointer that triggered the 7-point play. Like Horford getting out just hasn't really worked out very well. I feel like I saw you pump your fist like I just walked right into your little trap over there.
No. The 7-point play, I want to talk about that. But
okay.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
Yeah, and then but I do think that like it's interesting. I think we're yet to see exactly what the Celtics are trying to do with this pursuit around the screen, because you do see Marcus Smart and especially Derek White really trailing that screen hard and trying to contest the shot from behind. It doesn't seem to be bothering Curry too much unless they actually do manage to force him to drive. And then we saw him turn it over 3 times. One time out of the pick and roll in the fourth quarter. But regardless, I think maybe the answer is just Rob instead of Al in kind of those drop coverages, because Rob does do seem to do a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, what do you think is the what's your take here?
So my take, and I appreciate that's the exact perfect setup, is that's exactly what the Celtics want to do. That this. It's now we're heading into game 4. They've played him this way for a majority of the series. They've mixed in some other stuff, the switches, and they've mixed it up against him. It's not entirely drop coverage, but it's been mostly drop coverage, and people can't really figure out like why is this happening? No one plays drop on Steph Curry. What are you, nuts? Right. But I think by this point, instead of people figuring out like you got to get away from it, I think the Celtics are sitting there saying, no, we're going to lean into it. And yeah, you got to bring Horford up just a little bit higher. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Get up higher. Daniel Tice has been played off the floor because he's dropping down to the dots instead of – you got to come up and not be afraid, because the absolute most dangerous version of the Warriors offense is when the ball is popping and spraying and Curry gets rid of the ball and seems to almost disappear into a sea of bodies. Yeah. And then he shows up somewhere else and you're like, how the hell? He's over there now and he's open 4 feet behind the line and he's drilling. I think the effect of Curry off the ball, giving the ball up and running and the ball just moving all over the place, that being the most dangerous version of the Warriors, the Celtics have said, we don't want Curry to give the ball up. Sure. We actually want a 34-year-old Steph Curry with a hobbled Klay Thompson, with a shell of Draymond Green, who's just nowhere near anything offensively than he used to be, and that wasn't even all that great, with Wiggins, who they just flat out dare to shoot, with Poole, who is young and unsure of the moment, and really no other guys like they used to have that really made you pay. The Celtics are, I think, at this point, they're saying, all right, Steph, you do it. And people will say, you don't want Steph Curry to beat you. And I think the Celtics are sitting there saying, like, no, we're trying to get Steph Curry to beat us. And
we don't think he can. Yeah.
We don't think Steph Curry, with this group at his age, with this whole everything considered, we don't think you can do it 4 times in a series. So we're going to drop. You got to play higher and you got to chase, because you don't want to let him step into open threes. But later in the game where Rob did play higher and you chased and he went into 2, you'll live with that. You live with the floaters. You live with the long 2s. That's fine, because he's not giving it up and he's not relocating and he's not getting those shots and he's not helping other guys get hot. So Klay Thompson, as a result, has been pressing a lot. Jordan Poole has not really – he had one good stretch. These guys aren't getting hot off of Curry. So I think the whole game plan has been, you play drop-on coverage. You make Steph do it 4 times. Can you do it 4 times against this defense? We don't think so.
Real quick aside, has Andrew Wiggins been the second best Warrior in this series? He's been pretty good. Especially defensively, he's had some real moments.
He's had some moments, but
that's the point, right? Is that like,
right. Klay had some moments, so but I don't think Wiggins has not had a particularly great series. He's been pretty good defensively, but he was also like Jayson Tatum was blown by him in the 4th quarter. Yeah, like he wasn't exactly stopping anybody in the 4th quarter. So,
and that's kind of my point, is that to your point, I mean, Curry, it's interesting, right? Because it's almost very similar to the way they defended Giannis at times, where it was like, okay, Giannis, you go at Grant Williams, you go at Horford. I don't doubt that you will get some buckets. You might have a couple of huge games. The series might go 6 or 7 games, but we don't think that the rest of your team, if we shut all them down, we know we can shut everybody else down. So, can you single-handedly beat us 4 times? And the answer with Giannis was no. And the answer with Jimmy Butler was so close.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, oh God.
It's very funny. As another aside, it's very funny to hear Zach Lowe still just like both hands on his head, like concerned about what would have happened if that tree went in. Because like I know exactly what he means. Like it's
yeah.
But I mean, the same thing with Curry, and it's interesting because in my piece today, I wrote about how Curry is such a different superstar than anything the Celtics have faced so far, right? Like where, Giannis was just just a wrecking ball. Steph is all precision and everything. Like, Jimmy Butler was a force of will. Steph Curry is a force of gravity. Like they're very different players, but it is interesting to just kind of take that same principle. Like, we don't think it's the finals. We don't think that one guy can win a finals all by himself, and try to apply it to Steph Curry. One of, in my opinion, the 10 greatest players of all time. So yeah, I'm interested in it.
He's a guy who's done it. I mean, but I think it's about the circumstance. It's about the circumstance that Steph at this point, plus, the injury, and not the injury that Al Horford, is being accused of, crap with. It's that Steph isn't what Steph used to be entirely. And he's spent it's been a kind of tough season for him by his standards.
Yeah.
So,
which is funny because he has been himself in these finals so far.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit more. I mean, like more so in the last game than I think, but we'll pick this back up. I got to get to Sakara, which is going to help you live a healthy, balanced life and truly enjoy it with delicious, plant-rich, transformational nutrition that builds a foundation for living in your best body. I can tell you that if you're not eating well, it really has an impact on how you feel. And every beat writer can tell you the impact of not eating well, because it's tough to eat well on the road. So I am looking forward to Sakara, which is a wellness company anchored in food as medicine and is on a mission to nourish your body through the power of plants. I'm looking forward to these tools that they give you to transform your life through their organic, ready-to-eat meal delivery program and functional wellness essentials. It's nutritionally designed, chef-crafted breakfast, lunch, and dinners made with powerful plant-rich ingredients, helping boost your energy, helps your digestion, curbs your sugar cravings, gets your skin glowing. It's just overall good, healthy stuff, and it's delivered right to your door. Sakara's functional plant-rich wellness essentials help you create a body you love living in. From their best-selling Metabolism Super Powder to the Foundation, their daily supplement packs, Sakara's products are designed to support your wellness goals anytime, anywhere. Sakara right now is offering you 20% off your first order when you go to sakara.com/lockdown20, or you can enter the code lockdown20 at checkout. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com/lockdown20 to get 20% off your first order. Sakara.com/lockdown20. So picking up where we left off here, Tom, the way they are just kind of daring Curry and taking away a lot of that passing. We've seen when he gets by and the Celtics aren't picking up at the right points and he gives it up, and the scramble behind, it's led to easy Draymond, Looney, Wiggins dunks, and that's kind of what they want to avoid, is when Steph breaks free. That's what I think the drop coverage is designed to do. You chase him from behind, you get up high enough where you're able to contest the shot, but also not get burned. And this is where, back to the original point, is it more Rob? Is it more Al? I think you still go with Al for the overall offense, but I think you can mix in. You just got to get Al to be up. You just got to tell him, like, dude, live with it. You got to live with it and take your chances. I will say I had to mention that 7-point play, because yesterday I said, you know what? It's not a big deal. The landing spot foul is there. It's there to protect the shooter and all of that stuff. But I said that without benefit of looking at the play again. Al did not jump underneath Steph Curry. He did not. The intent of that rule is the Zaza Pachulia rule, where you slide your foot underneath a guy going straight up and down and have him land on your foot so he sprains an ankle. It's dirty play, and that's something that should be legislated out. So I'm okay with the rule, but the officials, even after review, calling that a flagrant foul. At first, I was like, okay, and Al Horford was okay with it. If the big isn't allowed to jump and land, and he did jump a little forward, but Curry jumped like 2 feet forward and landed diagonally on Horford's foot. That should not be a flagrant foul. That should not be a foul at all. A shooter shouldn't be rewarded for jumping that deep into a player. I just had to get that off my chest. Any thoughts?
I don't entirely agree. I mean, predictably, I'm going to side with the shooter. I think I really do appreciate what the NBA has done to protect shooters. And I thought watching the replay, see, to me, it did look like, because Al jumped forward a bit, I was fine with it. And I think just as a concept, the idea of really making guys have to think about where shooters are landing, like putting that little extra, like that, it's a flagrant, like, be careful, not to like give somebody an ankle issue, it does protect.
To that 7-point play, which is an insane moment in the game. And then on the next possession, we can see Steph coming off here.
Sorry,
You're good.
I hate when I open these things up. So I was watching the breakdown. I might as well see if can I share this part of my screen. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. So for the people watching, Steph Curry is, for people listening, Steph Curry is halfway between the logo and the 3-point line. I apologize, Tom, for interrupting you.
No, you're good.
So he jumps up. When you are, I'll allow for a little bit of a step forward, but I think Horford lands. I don't know, man. To me, if you put it, I see Steph kind of kicking his legs a little bit, but I think Horford is going to land under him, and Steph is kind of trying to like protect his feet and his ankles. It's to me, I think that is a flagrant foul. I do not have a problem with that being a flagrant foul, because Al is definitely jumping forward. Steph is also jumping forward. It's tough, right?
It's tough.
He's jumping forward.
He is jumping forward.
Both guys are jumping forward, and they both kind of like meet in the middle, and that's where they land.
But Al, because Al is jumping forward and his hands make contact with Curry, I think it's clearly a foul.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. It's a foul.
Yeah. But, and then the fact,
actually, that's a high five. That's not a foul. I disagree.
He's kind of crashing into him though from the side there. It's a high five up top for sure. But then, yeah, I mean, Horford does land. The other thing is, for the people not watching, like, Horford does land significantly beyond the 3-point line. Like,
sure.
And Curry is jumping forward from that halfway in between point. So I see.
It's debatable.
It is debatable. I also see why they wouldn't overturn that, after making that call. But I think my larger point is I don't have any problem with the league protecting shooters. It's those, you're kind of vulnerable when you're up in the air like that. Like, jokes aside about me liking shooters, like, you're vulnerable when you're up in the air like that, when you're shooting. And, I think it's like, it's certainly like the thing it definitely wasn't was a dirty play by Horford. And I know we're going to get to that, to a different play in a minute, but nothing intentional. I don't have a problem with the league kind of protecting people there.
So the voice you may have heard there, it's Gibson Piper from Half Court Hoops. He does a great subscription service, great breakdowns. And I love that to help supplement what I'm doing when I'm watching, because sometimes I don't see everything, and it's just good to see somebody knowledgeable.
Yep.
So I'll give a shout out to Coach Piper, because the Half Court Hoops is a great thing to subscribe to. If you got a couple extra bucks, it'll really help you break down the game a little bit. So that's the voice you heard, to give him proper credit. That's where I pulled that from. So all right, so fine. Back to the original Horford. You just got to step up and accept that I'll take being burned a little bit versus the stepping into the open threes. You don't want
it's as simple as math, right? 3 points is like more dangerous than 2. So just make him make a 2 instead. See if you get some help on the backside.
Right. And I think the Celtics can simply adjust by saying, okay, when Al is in drop and we're asking him to be up high, be aware that somebody behind can just step on over. And if you get burned, Al, you just peel off to the corner. You don't have to sit there and try to stay with Steph. If someone from the opposite side, so if Steph is driving from the right side, somebody on the opposite side can just say, okay, if Al gets burned, I'm going to step up, and Al is just going to book it to the corner and just pick that guy up, and you just rotate. And that's how you will handle Curry getting off. And you don't have to force Al to tap dance out there. We don't want to see that. So with that, heading into game 4, there is a question of whether Curry is healthy and how he says he's going to play. But you mentioned Zach Lowe. I listened to him. I completely agree. I'll give him credit for saying this first. When you see a guy down there hurt and he's angry hurt, that does not bode well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like when he's down there and he's staying a little, Steph stayed there and he had his like hands up on his forehead and he's like banging his like leg on the ground, and all like that is not not something you want to see from anybody. And that signifies like some level of like real kind of pain. Now, also Steph walked into the arena. There was a practice necessary. It was just more like light shooting for anybody who wanted it. But the teams are mandated to have media days. They can't just say, like during the regular season on a day like this, the Warriors would have said, no practice today, no media availability. But it's the NBA Finals, and the NBA is like, nope, you are having a media availability. Here's exactly who is talking, and that's it. So he talked, and he said he's going to play. He's going to suit up, and he's going to play. But the question is, obviously, Tom, if he's limited at all, then things shift in a significant way.
Yeah. Like, he's driving everything right now, and he's Celtics. Like we just said, like he's making all his threes. He's like just completely on fire right now. He's been great. So yes, the Warriors need him fully healthy and fully operational.
Hot take: the Warriors need Steph Curry. So I was on a radio show in Las Vegas before we recorded the podcast, and I was asked by the host, like, so John, I got to ask you, do you think that play was dirty? I was like, what play? The Al Horford play on Steph? Yeah. Like, I can't believe that there's even a discussion that's out there. I feel obligated to bring this up so as to tear it down publicly and to let Celtics fans know that this is actually a discussion that's going on out there. That people are sitting there saying Al Horford diving for the loose ball did something untoward. This is unreal that this is even a discussion. But if anybody thinks that this is a dirty play, then I would suggest quite strongly that you don't know a damn thing about basketball.
I agree. Like, it's funny because, like, I would love to have like a nuanced take on this. Like, I just don't. Like, Horford was diving for the ball, and like, I think it is the finals, so everything is ratcheted up. Everybody is looking to for one thing, it's 2022, so everybody is looking to have a grievance about something. And if you're a sports fan, you want to have a grievance. If your favorite player gets hurt, if you're a Warriors fan, your favorite player gets hurt, you're upset about it. You want to have a grievance about it. I get that, but it's just not a fair one. Al Horford was obviously not trying to hurt him. Al Horford didn't do anything wrong. It's not even an intention thing. Horford dove for the ball. Those moments, the guys who you hear people talk about, guys who are willing to sacrifice their body, right? You talk about Marcus Smart, diving for things, or you talk about, Derek White taking charges. It's not just talk, those are mildly risky plays because you don't know what's going to happen. It's not a normal basketball play. It's a football play. Everybody's, and with no pads and no helmets or anything. Stuff will happen. Stuff could, and not will, but stuff could happen.
Sure.
If you put yourself in harm's way there. And if you do it, you're, making a big time hustle play. Steph was on the floor going for the ball. Horford was on the floor going for the ball. Stuff can happen. And it's not an intention thing. I actually thought, I think it was Steve Kerr after the game said, it was either Kerr or Curry, one of the two. Was basically saying I haven't seen the play, so I can't really make an evaluation on it. And it was can't you? Really, you can't. I get that I get that everybody wants to have a grievance, but it wasn't anything. It was just an unfortunate moment.
And it's Al Horford.
It's Al Horford.
You think Al Horford is gonna injure somebody to do this? No, right. Come on, man. Come on.
Man.
Everybody puts themselves at risk, like you said. There's an arm going out. Somebody can land on that arm, and you can get rondoed. You can get a dislocated elbow, and your finals are over. Anything can happen, but it's the finals, and everybody's going to die for the. There's no difference between Smart dove for it, Draymond Green dove for it, Curry dove for it, Horford dove for it. So how do three of those guys not do anything dirty and one guy did just because it just so happened that he happened to land on somebody's leg? That's the unfortunate part of being on the floor. They don't wear a red jersey. The quarterback don't touch jersey. You go out there, the ball's out there, ball's loose. What's crazy is that ball was loose for as long as it was.
That was a wild play,
and that Marcus Smart
and then it didn't even end up being a jump ball.
Didn't even be a jump ball. No, that ball was just loose.
Yeah.
And I also don't know what the hell Draymond was barking about. That was an obvious foul on Marcus Smart for his sixth foul. I mean, he hit him with the body and two arms.
Nope.
I don't understand why that is so was so controversial, but yet people want to sit there and say,
I have this one because it's 2022 and everybody wants a grievance. Boom. Got it.
That's right. But hey, that's right. So we'll leave it at that. Celtics, there's no arguing that point. That's 100% true. That was an obvious foul. One of many obvious fouls. It happened to be the one that was called on Draymond Green. Draymond is he's I got 5 fouls, just like when he's got the tech. He knows that he's going to have to punch somebody in the nose to get the 6th foul. And they finally gave it to him on one where it's you got to call one of them. So, all right, we'll see. Game 4, man. This is such an important game, man. If they win this game, they could go back. If they lose, go back and win Game 5 in Golden State and come back and win in 6. I think that's certainly possible. They win on the road all the time now, but they have to figure this out. Just figure it out for one game, how to play after a win. Mm-hmm. Figure out for one game how to play after a win. I mean, going back now, what I personally want is for them to go and then win Game 4, go back to San Francisco, probably lose there, come back, win it in front of the home crowd. I think that would be the ideal. I think everybody in Boston would love that. People, not the Boston Police Department, because they're no, we don't want all those 20,000 people pouring onto the Garden and climbing the lamppost. It suggests people please don't set cars on fire. I should let people know what my car is, and I will not park by the Garden so as not to have my car set on fire.
You know what? I disagree with all this. I'm pro riot. Let's get it.
You just want to see people call me Ted Cruz. So I braid my beard and then have my car torched. So I'm standing there crying with a braided beard.
Tears running into the beads on your beard.
Yeah. And like slowly dripping into the steaming embers of my new car, burning in front of me.
Yeah.
All right.
Some men just want to watch Karalis' car burn.
Yeah. I got a chant for you. It starts just the way they were chanting for Draymond.
Yep.
All right, Tom. Thank you, Tom Westerholm, for your charm and wit and insights.
That's it's why you bring me on, man. Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you for listening and for watching. Next podcast comes after Game 4 from the floor of the Garden, where it would be nice to have the Celtics up 3-1. I still can't believe how close they are to a championship. A championship. It doesn't make sense, but here we are. It still doesn't make sense to me. It may not make sense until the parade, but whatever. I'm still going to be podcasting through it and maybe even podcasting live from a parade. Who knows? Who knows how this is going to go? So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, free and available everywhere. Watch the show on YouTube. Maybe I'll show up with braids in my beard someday. Never know. So make sure you're watching the show, subscribe, and share the podcast if you're a subscriber. Tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.